Ladies and gents, welcome back. As you know, I've been bringing people on to talk about the use of the Emergencies Act here in Canada, the Freedom Convoy, and the whole situation that's been going on around that. And I wanted to extend the invitation to a YouTuber that I respect and have been watching for a long time, a man who's known for picking things apart and getting to the bottom of, and that would be AvE. Many friends of the channel would know this guy. If you don't know who he is, go check out his channel. He definitely gets to the bottom of things. But so I sent the invite out, and in classic YouTube fashion, he sent a video reply. So I'll be going over this for the first time. Why don't we just get right into it?
Clyde, you beautiful bastard. Thank Tomio or Tommy for me for that vibrator you sent me on years ago. It's come in mighty handy. Cold as a bronze bidet around here. I don't know how it is in Squeamish, but she's just about ski season, buddy.
Ooh, not that cold here.
We're going to get the fire going, talk about this invocation of the Emergencies Act, why it's political theater. It's a telling indictment of our times when the most astute political discussions happen stance between mechanics and engineers and people on the periphery, fringe monkeys you might call them. Now, I don't want to fall into the trap of being labeled by my ideas or labeling you by your ideas. A lot of times when you hear someone's opinion, you only use that to put them in the with us or against us categories. We use this mental shorthand. He doesn't think like me. He's an asshole. And that's not the case because we are so very, very often wrong. Right wing, left wing, don't make no never mind. It's all on the same bird. It's the system. To quote our favorite Malthusian misanthrope murderer, Henry Kissinger, I am an independent. The public inquiry into the invocation of the Emergencies Act is political theater. It is a tactic. Now, tactics are the how, and strategy are the why. So why is it a distraction? Because it doesn't have any teeth. The damage is already done, and you go in after the fact, and you can't, there's no punitive aspect to it. All you can do is recommend, and that's the commissioner of the inquiry submits a report to the politicians and recommends certain actions be taken. Now, I can recommend till I'm blue in the face. Doesn't mean anybody's going to do it. And that's the same exact thing with the public inquiry. Further, the purview, the framework, the questions that the inquiry is setting out to answer. Just look at the questions. They're framed in such a way that you know what the result is going to be. So the public inquiry is set up to get some recommendations out of a commissioner's report. Who is the commissioner? So the commissioner of this toothless public inquiry is Judge Paul Rouleau from the University of Ottawa, Faculty of Law, appointed to the Court of Appeal of Ontario by Paul Martin. And Paul Martin is the former federal Minister of Finance and a Liberal Party Prime Minister. In fact, Paul Rouleau, Paul, of course, from the Latin polis, meaning humble, and I've seen interviews with this fella, and he is quite humble. He's very well spoken. He worked for the Liberal Party and even had a hand picking political appointments after Pierre Trudeau announced his retirement. Now, April 25th of 2022, his son, Pierre's son Justin, appointed him as the commissioner of this toothless dog. We as Canadians under the Minister Prime have no expectation of even the semblance of propriety, so it comes as no surprise that a former Liberal Party hack would be appointed as the judge. At least that's what my idea was until I got looking at this fella. Actually, turns out he seems to be my kind of people. Not a bad fella at all. In his own words, it was his dream to drive a big rig from one end of the country to the next, or to snowplow. But his father died when he was 19, sister and 3 brothers. His brothers, right holy terrors of intellect. One's a cardiologist, 425 papers to his name, something like that, or articles, and a myriad of papers. A member of the Order of Canada, and his other brother, a neurologist and geneticist. But they all got big families, big Roman Catholic French families. It'll be interesting to see what his recommendations are, but he doesn't seem to have a innate hatred of the working class, which so many of the political elite seem to. So why is this a political tactic, the how, in the overall strategy of the why? The tactic is divide and conquer. So this is divisive, and it's a distraction, and ultimately fruitless because it has no teeth. Politicians, as opposed to statesmen. Statesmen are a completely different kettle of fish, but politicians operate under the knowledge that they will ultimately fail. Their career as politicians will end in failure. They will leave office because they failed to get reelected. So a politician's job is to invent problems and provide the solution. Now, the best problems are wholly intractable. That is, they cannot be solved. I give you homelessness. I give you, well, in the words of KRS-One, knowledge rules all, the rapper, you're never going to get justice on stolen land. So now we have the question of Aboriginal rights. It's an intractable problem, and politicians love those kind of problems because you can shovel public funds at it and it never ever gets solved. And it also, if they're divisive issues, all the better. Why do you want divisive issues? Don't you want everybody to get it? No. This is a strategy from time immemorial. Babylon, they're getting together, we're going to build a beautiful tower. The power on high says, wait a second, I don't like any threats to my hegemony. I'm going to give you all different languages, different attitudes, so you tribe up into different teams, Milwaukee versus Ryobi. Now, if I balance Team Ryobi against Team Milwaukee, then all I need to do is put a teeny tiny finger on either side of the teeter-totter, and I can get it to topple over the direction I want. This is why the British, or we'll say the Belgians in the Congo. So the King of Belgium, in former years when the Congo was a colony, if a native did bad, they cut off his hand, just straight up. If they didn't do what a Belgian wanted, slice off his hand. I gotta back up. Congo is a bad example because I do not recall the names of the tribes of various localities. So we'll move over to Rwanda, which was also an imperial conquest. There was 2 sections of land that got amalgamated into one big country, not for no reason. The divide and conquer idea. So what they did was they took the smaller tribe, it was the Hutus or the Tutsis, and I don't recall which was the smaller tribe, but you take the smaller, weaker tribe and you make them, this is as an imperial power, mind you. I wouldn't do this because I rather enjoy sitting in front of my fire. You take the smaller tribe and you make them the elite. So you make them the university professors, you make them the school teachers, you make them the bureaucrats, you make them the doctors, you make them the... And that way, you support the weaker tribe. Now, the weaker tribe is always scared because they were never amalgamated into one big country. They had their own delineations. Everybody was happy. But you mix them together and you divide and conquer. So you put one on one side of the scale and one on the other side of the scale. You put the weaker, you back the weaker side, and that way, the weaker side is always en garde of losing control and getting hacked up by machetes. You offer succor to the weaker tribe because you want balance. You want to be able to put your finger on whichever side of the scale that you want in order to implement the policies, what you need in order to extract the most resources from said country. It's the same game over and over and over. Now, say what you will about Thrust and Turdho. As a political patsy, as a political operator, he's perfect because he's so bloody divisive, completely useless, inarticulate, essentially panty waist, and he's the minister prime. Not once, not twice, but thrice. So the strategy is to extract resources. The tactic is division, through rancor, hatred, political lines, essentially tribal lines on any scale. Whether it be, we don't like blue-collar workers inherently because they never went to college and only smart people go to college. I went to college, I am a smart people. Or I am a hewer of wood and a hauler of water and not one of them fancy parasites what live off my taxes. So how do we combat that? Well, by doing exactly what we're doing here, which is discussion. That is the one thing they do not want. Consider discussion and rigorous debate as the antidote to the narcissistic, cloying mother of government seeping into every part of our lives. I don't know if you like that kind of thing, the I will always protect you, but you can never leave me. You have to love me. You can never grow up. That ain't for me. Maybe it's for you. So those are some preliminary thoughts on this. Now, the beautiful thing about this venue is discussion. This is how we get our way out of this. Rigorous debate and discussion, which was absolutely quashed over the past 2 years. We have to decide, I put it to you, fellow Canadians, do we want the apparatus of the state, that is the government? The government is a golem. It's a manufactured, well, it's an artificial intelligence. You take bureaucrats and you dehumanize them, you put them into a little hole, and then you have some tin pot potentate issuing edicts from orders in council. Is that what we want? I will always protect you as long as you do exactly as I say and you never leave me. The opposite of paternity, patriarchy, is not maternity, but fraternity. And what we saw during the trucker convoy is fraternity. And that is why it was a beautiful thing. Okay. What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? About 6 months. How is my hat and the lunar lander similar? They're both made of tinfoil. In the words of Red Green, keep your dick in a vice.
Thanks so much to AvE for sending that video response. Definitely much appreciated. And wow, just hearing that for the first time, couldn't agree more. I think we need to, and this is why I push for open debate, freedom of speech, this whole idea of not shutting anyone down, even opinions that you don't like. Engage with people. And, some people tend to be vitriolic. I do partake in the Twitter space, which I liken to having an intellectual conversation with a chihuahua behind a chain link fence. But at some point, open debate and conversation will become useful in bringing things back. And I think normalcy is what we're looking for. Most of us aren't looking to tip the scale and go the complete other way with things. I think bringing people back to the center is a good idea. And wow, some great points hit in that video response. So AvE, thank you so much for sending that over. And I want to continue this debate and talk about this in the comment section down below. Please leave a comment. Lots of rigorous debate going on in the comment sections these days. But definitely the idea of fraternity and bringing people together is what brought a lot of people in during the Freedom Convoy, and yeah, really want to extend that and keep moving forward with that idea. So definitely a great video response here from AvE. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.